بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Continuing our talk on Tawbah, today we reach the types of personalities or the types of self, nafs. And when we engage in these things, and these are terms you've all heard because they're in the Quran, al-nafs al-ammara bis-su', al-nafs al-lawwama, al-nafs al-mutma'inna, they're all mentioned in the Quran. The first one is mentioned in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. The second one is mentioned in Surah al-Qiyamah, and the third one mentioned in Surah al-Fajr. And you've all heard of these terms. However, when we look at it in this regard, in regards of Tawbah, the goal here is to understand the self, understand the individual who's doing the sin, right? And psychology has its own field in this regard, personality. They study personality in depth. There are personalities that are they have a high temper, a big temper. There are personalities that are more prone or more affected by sorrow and sadness, right? There are personalities that are naturally, lighthearted, naturally smiling and easygoing and whatnot. These are personalities. And why is it important to know these personalities? Because when we deal with these personalities, there's a certain way in dealing with them. So if a person is suffering from depression, for example, and they have personality A, well, how do you deal with that? Not everyone is going to react to certain counseling strategies or therapy strategies the same. Someone who's upset needs a certain type of counseling, etc. So when we look at the self, part of it is understanding what is driving me to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Sometimes it's pure desire. My desires got the best of me, right? Sometimes it's arrogance, right? What do I mean by that? Do I mean the person's arrogant? No. Sometimes it's, I don't like being confined. Therefore, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me not to do something, it bothers me. Not because I want it, there's some desire pushing me to do it, but rather I don't like feeling confined. There are some people who it's very easy for them to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray 5 times a day, no problem. Fast Ramadan, no problem. Give your zakah, no problem. But it's hard for them to stay away from sin. Again, maybe they don't like being confined. For some people, it's very easy for them to stay away from sin. They're disciplined, they're obedient. But when it comes to doing something, they have that laziness. Right? So you have different personalities, and each one has, its driving forces. So part of understanding Tawbah and repentance is understanding the self. What is driving me to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Therefore I can come up with a cure, if you will, a method of diverting myself, preventing myself from the sin itself. So you have 3 main categories that the Quran talks about. Now these aren't 3 separate categories. They can overlap. You can find in the same person all 3. You can find someone who, there's one personality that's clear and the other ones are weaker, right? So the first one is النفس الأمارة بالسوء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Talking about Yusuf alayhi salam, or the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, when the wife of the Aziz finally admitted that she is the one who tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam, and he had no fault. He's the one who ran away from me and whatnot. And she says that, look, النَّفْسُ أَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. The self tries to drive itself to evil. It likes that. And we've talked about, kind of touched base on why we feel uncomfortable when Allah tells us don't do something. Or a lot of people feel uncomfortable. We do not like being confined. Right? And we spoke about the example of Adam alayhi salam and the tree. You have the entire paradise of trees. And this one, just this one is forbidden, right? And he went to it. Something drove him to it. Why? Ibn Qayyim says that we do not like feeling confined, right? Therefore, that which is forbidden seems to be more attractive. It could be the same exact tree, right? Then the question is, was it a different tree or the same tree? If it was the same tree, and there's a second apple tree, right? Or, as you find in the people of the book, we don't know what fruit it was, we don't know what kind of tree it was, but let's just assume it was an apple tree. right? And then there's another apple tree, and he went to the forbidden one. That says a lot about who we are. And that's one of the points. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put Adam through this preface before going to earth? It's to show us a model of how we are, how we act, we as human beings. This is who you are. This is how you react. This is the consequences of disobedience, and this is the consequences or the results of repentance. A very important model that we should center around our lives around. And that's the point. So there is a part of us that wants to do that which is forbidden. And part of what is forbidden is desirable by us. Alcohol, something humans desire, right? We might find it disgusting because we've never done it. But this is an entire industry. Billions of dollars go into alcohol. You look at the way they advertise it and the way they make their bottles, and man, right? They make it in such ways, and associated with alcohol is socializing, partying, having fun, right? Among other things. There's a desire there. And in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was presented in Isra and Madarij, was presented by Jibreel a glass of milk and a glass of wine. And he allowed the Prophet ﷺ to choose whichever he wanted. So he chose the milk. And the response was, you chose the fitrah. Why is milk? What does that have to do with fitrah? Well, when a baby is born, what do they drink? Milk. So milk is what helps the body grow, helps the body develop. So that has to do with the fitrah. And he said if you were to have chosen the wine, your ummah would have gone astray. Right? Also, engaging with the opposite gender. Right? Look, it's a desire. It's not unnatural either. It's a natural desire. Yet we are forbidden from it. So you find that struggle, and the self starts pushing it. Especially in our times when we have access to anything and everything with a touch of a button in the side of our in our pockets. We have such easy access to the opposite gender. It's unbelievable, right? My phone is closer to me than my water. And that's how it is. So there's a part of us as human beings that drives us towards that which is forbidden. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points out some of this. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. We guided them to the two paths, the path of good and the path of bad. Meaning we have showed them both ways. We know what is good and we know what is bad in generally speaking, right? فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired to us, to the human being. He made it part of our fitrah that, this is good, this feels good, and this is bad and it feels bad. Right? There are some things that you don't need to be told this is bad in order to realize this is bad. Right? It's part of the fitrah, it's natural there. Now, when we look at ourselves as part of us being driven by this desire, by the hawa, by the evil within ourselves, and that's why in every Jum'ah we say, oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from the evils within ourselves, right? Part of understanding this isn't to punish that part of the body. Yes, it's to understand it and to counter it. However, we take this, Allah created us with this. Always remember that. Allah created us with this driving force. He could have created us like angels without these desires. But He didn't. Why didn't He? To punish us? That's not our rhetoric. We don't believe in that perspective that this life is a punishment to us. We don't believe in that. This life is part of the plan. This life is part of the goal, and that is to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to go back to paradise. Allah created within us these desires. Why? So that we can utilize it, understand it, utilize it in a way that gets us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are spiritual businessmen and women. This is how we do it. This is what we have. We're going to utilize it, right? We take advantage of everything that's in front of us and that's within us in order to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do we do that? Well, one of the ways of doing that, and there are several, but one of the ways is to realize that no matter how much we do tazkiyah to ourselves, purify ourselves, immerse ourselves in a very healthy, spiritually healthy environment, no matter how much time we dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter how much we sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is always a part in us that is there's always a part in us that is unbefitting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Meaning there will always remain evil within ourselves. Well, by that I mean there's always a part of us that can take us astray, take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as much as we try to separate the two, it is almost impossible to fully separate them, except by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, we have an assumption that when we do an act of good, when we do a good deed, when we do hasanat, when we try and be sincere, we can never fully be sincere. Why? Because there's still some veins of that evil flowing within, that sincerity, that prayer, that fasting, right? And this doesn't mean it's not accepted, by the way. It's still accepted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, He realizes how He created us, and almost the sheer impossibility of us being completely pure. If He wanted us to be completely pure, again, He would have made us angels. So by recognizing that and acknowledging it, we always know that there's some work to be done. We are never, I have made it, I am top notch, I have become the president or the CEO of the company, there's nowhere else to go. We don't see it that way. No matter how much effort and how much time and sacrifice and dedication we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's always room to improve. Right? And that's amazing. That's very important for the human being. Why? Because there's always a purpose. There's always a goal. We don't get bored. These very wealthy and very well-established individuals, they made it top-notch, and there's nothing else for them to achieve. What do they start doing? I have a theory, right? What do they start doing? They have these clubs called, some people call them the Illuminatis, right? Some people think that they are a world-dominating secret force, whatever. My theory is that they are a bunch of very extremely powerful and wealthy people who are so bored of their public lives. They want to do something crazy, right? Something that gets their adrenaline up, gets them excited, so they come together in a secretive manner and they do crazy things. Why? Because they're bored of their lives. And this is what I think it is. Now, there could happen stuff, right? Agreements between different countries and certain, hey, let's try and do this, maybe, right? But in general, it's more of a men's club for the extremely elite and rich who are so bored of their lives, they want something to kind of re-energize themselves. This is what I think it is. However, for the believer, no matter how much we do, we are never even close to truly worshiping Allah the way He deserves, right? Another way that we utilize this is when we understand, acknowledge that there's always incompletion in what we do, we come to the realization, or we further realize that we are in need, first and foremost, of Allah's mercy, not of our actions. In other words, what's going to get me close to Allah aren't my actions. They are not my prayers. They are not my fasting. They are not my sadaqah. They are not my sacrifice. It is Allah's mercy. Because no matter how much I do, all of it is incomplete. None of it is worthy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, I am completely dependent, in need. My life, my everything is dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepting it. That's what it is. But if we see our actions as being, alhamdulillah, good, I'm so awesome, we will never get anywhere. But the more we realize how little we do, the more we realize how much we are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. That is what gets us there. And the Prophet ﷺ says exactly that. Now imagine the Prophet ﷺ, the one who would pray all night until his feet would crack and bleed, the one who would fast so much that the companions would say he's never going to stop fasting, the one who dedicated 23 years of his life sacrificing everything that he had for the sake of this ummah, for the sake of the religion, the one who was attacked by his people, he was driven out by his people, he was persecuted by his people, the one who anything he had, any wealth that he had above what he needed to survive, he would give it in charity. The one who had no privacy. Prophet ﷺ had no privacy. We know everything he did. The wives narrated that for us. And that's a lot to give up. You know, the whole issue on privacy here in America and whatnot, that's a big issue, right? And public figures go through a lot because they have no privacy, right? They go through depression. Why? I have no privacy. People are following me around. I have to, wear certain clothes that people don't recognize me, right? And much, much more. All that the Prophet ﷺ did. Yet, what does he tell us? None of us will enter paradise by their actions. So they asked, not even you, Ya Rasulullah? They didn't say, oh my God, why? What do you mean? That doesn't make sense. How dare you say it? No, the hadith is weak. What are you talking about, Ya Rasulullah? They didn't say that like my generation does all too much. They think they're, mashallah, they're very smart. Look at what the companions, the best generation, the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah. And to give a kind of a background on what that means, the greatest thing you can achieve is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is in the Quran telling us multiple times that they have achieved that. What did they say? They said, Ya Rasulullah, not even you? They said, not even me. He said, not even me, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to pour mercy upon me. Literally dip me in His mercy. SubhanAllah. But this is the mentality that we need to have. Why? Because it doesn't shift us from what we are doing to something completely different, but rather it adjusts our mentality to continue to do what we do, but at the same time to add the key element to worship, and that is the need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need Allah to accept what I'm doing. That's the goal. So we start making dua, oh Allah, taqabbal minna. I mean, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim and Ismail, when they were building the Kaaba. Now imagine this, put things into perspective. They are building the Kaaba. They are building the structure that will be the center of Islam. That will be the center point of billions of people. Billions and billions of people who will come and do Hajj, who will do Tawaf, who will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there. And they get every reward of that. When we go and do Umrah or we do Hajj, there are millions of people. It's estimated about 20 million people visit Mecca a year. Imagine all that they pray, all the dua that they make, all the good reward that they do. How many people were guided because they went to and did Umrah? So many people, when they go to Umrah and they come back, it's a spiritual revelation. It's a change. It's an epiphany for them. And such a beautiful experience. Inshallah, we'll be doing one, hopefully. Use this as an advertisement, right? All of that, they're getting the reward for it. Yet when they were building the Kaaba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes them as saying what? رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Right? Let me start from the beginning of that. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ ربنا وجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك وأرنا مناسكنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا وابعث فيهم رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة ويزكيهم إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. Look at the dua he makes. He is building the Kaaba, and as he is building it, right? Not later on he remembers, man, I did this. Well, as he is building it, what an honor. What does he say? He says, oh Allah, make us, accept from us what we are doing. Indeed, you are all accepting and all hearing. Oh Allah, look at this. Make us two Muslims for you, meaning him and Ismail. Meaning make us people who submit to you. What is the point of this Kaaba if we are not submitting to the Lord of the Kaaba? This is nothing more than a physical structure, right? Its value is not its bricks. That's why if the Muslims were to tear it down and build it up again, it makes no difference. Why? It's not the bricks. It has no value. Rather, what it represents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the house of Allah, right? And whoever enters Mecca is Dayfur Rahman, as they say, the guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the guest of the most merciful. It is what it represents. And Ibrahim understood that. I can build this Kaaba, and it can be the center point of billions and billions of people. the place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worshipped and His name is risen and people are the best of the best when they are there. Yeah, if Allah doesn't accept that from me, what have I done? Nothing. Oh Allah, make us of those who submit to you. If I build this, yeah, I'm not the one benefiting from it, then what have I gained? Right? Like the scholar who teaches people, yet they don't benefit from what they teach or what they learn. Or they don't practice what they preach. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, among the first people who enter hellfire, they start the blaze of the hellfire, is a scholar. A scholar who would teach, tell people do this, don't do that, yet they wouldn't practice it. It's very bad. They didn't benefit. You can have someone who is very well versed in Islam, but their heart is like a rock. They did not benefit from what they learned. Then what have they gained? All the time that they dedicated to reading, to sacrifice, to studying, to presenting, etc. Right? What they have not benefited anything. Well, there's a part. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, the Prophet ﷺ said this, that he will enter paradise unless he is poured with mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Ibrahim alayhi salam is making this dua while building the Kaaba, if the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us, the scholar, right, the one who is versed in Quran and Hadith and all these things and has access to them, if they are not, if that's not being accepted from them, then they have gained nothing, right? And he's also telling us there's a chance that it might not be accepted. There's a chance in the heart that after doing it, we turn away. After being on guidance, we deviate. There's always a chance, or else what's the point of these dua, and what's the point of this hadith, and what's the point of the second hadith, right? So in us is a driving force for evil, for disobedience. There is a driving force within us that wants us to go on the path towards hellfire. That's a reality. But we take this with optimism. We understand that Allah created us this way, meaning He did that with wisdom. There's a great wisdom behind it. It's about us understanding it, acknowledging it, and utilizing it in a way that gets us closer to Allah, and that is by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the evils within ourselves, as we do in the beginning of every khutbah, and also to realize that it's Allah's mercy that causes us to succeed, nothing else. Right? Pray your 5 daily prayers, do this and do what you're supposed to do, but after doing it, say, oh Allah, accept from me. Feel that need, that dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that vulnerability without Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ teaches us what's called Sayyidul Istighfar, and we all know this one. It's part of the wird of the Adhkar al-Sabah wal-Masa, the remembrance of the morning and the evening, right? In which the Prophet ﷺ teaches us the best istighfar, the best way to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, and it is Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant khalaqtani wa ana abduk wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'at a'udhu bika min sharri ma sana'at abu'u laka bi ni'matika alay wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li fa innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa ant. Look at this beautiful dua. It starts, Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant. It says, oh Allah, you are my Lord. Right? You are my Lord. There's nothing worthy of worship except you. Right? We start by acknowledging the theological aspect of what we do. Why is this important? Right? Look at Surah Al-Fatiha, the same thing. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Malik Yawmiddin. It starts out with Allah. And Surah Al-Fatiha is a supplication. And it's a model for supplication. Start with praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, acknowledging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when we do that, we remind ourselves, we remind our hearts where our success is. Oh Allah, you are my Lord, meaning you are the one who takes care of my affairs. You are the one who created the universe the way it is. You are the one who is capable of doing what needs to be done and providing me with what needs to be provided for my success. Anta Rabbi la ilaha illa ant. There's nothing worthy of worship except you. Right? This is This entire book is revolving around this, understanding this, applying it, living it, experiencing it, feeling it. When we say La ilaha illa ant, in this context that we are talking about, oh Allah, there's nothing worthy of worship except you. What it means is, it's an expression of our dependence and need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing worthy of worship except you, because you are the one who is perfect. Anything besides you is in need of you. You are their Lord. Therefore, I have nothing. I have nothing to offer. I have nothing to provide myself. There is no one who can offer me or provide me with what I need except you. This is how we start and enter this Sayyid al-Istighfar, the most profound istighfar, right? By recognizing exactly what we've been talking about, the need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La ilaha illa ant, khalaqtani wa ana abduk. You created me and I am your servant. Submission. I admit I am your servant. I admit, I live it, I feel it. I recognize that I am in need of you. Further elaborating the previous two phrases, right? Ana abduk, submission. Oh Allah, I am submitting to you. I am following your commands. I am following the system you created. I'm not going against it. Why? Because I realize my need for you, and I realize that there's no escaping you, and I realize no one can help me except you. Subhanak. Right? وَأَنَا عَبْدُكَ وَأَنَا عَلَى عَهْدِكَ وَوَعْدِكَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُ. And I am on your ahd, I am following your commands. That agreement. It reminds us of the agreement between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say that we are a Muslim, when we say that we follow the Prophet and we believe in him, when we say La ilaha illallah, we enter in an agreement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we believe in these tenets of faith and that we are obligated to do these things. This is the ahd. We are in an agreement, a contract, metaphorically speaking, between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And what does the Prophet ﷺ say? How does he word it? He says, as much as I possibly can. Meaning, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I understand that I have shortcomings. I realize that. Right? But there's still the part of me that's trying to do its best. Now, when you're coming and having that mentality, you start feeling the weakness in the heart. And that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we need when it comes to engaging with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The weaker we feel when we talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more emotional we feel when we talk to Allah, the more vulnerable, right? The more dependent we feel on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the stronger the dua is. This supplication is supposed to make us tear, right? It's supposed to make us cry. It's supposed to make us break down. Because that's when we say, oh Allah, I need you. And that's when the answer comes. SubhanAllah. Right? وَأَنَا عَبْدُكَ. I am your servant. That's part of it. وَأَنَا عَلَى عَهْدِكَ وَوَعْدِكَ. And your promise, مَا اسْتَطَعْتُ. I'm trying to follow your promise. I'm trying to live it as much as possible. What is that promise? Paradise. For those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For those who ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. We're working towards that. This is my driving force. This is my goal. I realize that this is where I'm trying to get. This is the greatest goal that I can achieve, the greatest accomplishment. When we do that, what happens to our mind and our heart? This world around me, this world that is attractive to me, that is driving or kind of pulling out the evil within myself, right? When people do a sin, what is a sin? When someone drinks, what are they gaining? Some worldly pleasure. When they steal, what are they gaining? Some worldly commodity. When they don't fulfill their obligations, why? For some worldly gain. So when we remind ourselves in this supplication, the wa'd of Allah, the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it helps us focus on the true goal, thus making this world secondary, tertiary, insignificant in comparison to the real goal. Thus making our sincerity that much stronger, our supplication that much more engaging for us. وَأَنَا عَلَى عَهْدِكَ وَوَعْدِكَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُ أَعُوذُ بِكَ min sharri ma sanat. O Allah, I seek refuge in you in the evil that I have done, or the evils which I do. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي. I go back to you for your blessings, and I go back to you for my sins. Meaning, all the blessings that you have given me. Look, this istighfar is taking into account the blessings that we have been given. Imam al-Ghazali says something very concerning, very heavy on the heart. He says, the smallest sin, such as looking at something forbidden for just a few seconds, doing that is equivalent to disbelieving or rejecting all the blessings in the heavens and the earth. This is very concerning. What does he mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you an eye, and He has given you all this body, right? And we said that He has given us these blessings in order for us to utilize it to get closer to Him. Therefore, He has given vision. Look at that which gets you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the natural world around you. Look at the Quran, right? Ponder, reflect. For that moment, we use that blessing to look at something forbidden. What's attached to the eye? What are these called? The eyelids, right? The eyelids. We could have used the eyelids to shut our eyes and cut that off. We didn't. Rejection of the blessing. The eyelids are connected to what? The face. And the face in it is the mind, and it's connected to the rest of the body. And the body is getting its sustenance from what? The earth. And the earth is getting its provisions from what? The rain, the heavens. And He connects it to the entire world, entire universe. All of it is connected together. And therefore, one single sin, no matter how minute and small it is essentially rejection for that moment of all the blessings which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, because they're all tied together. SubhanAllah. Abu'u bi dhanbi. I go back to you for my sin. Doing a sin is not something, it's okay, Allah Ghafur Rahim, which is the rhetoric of today, unfortunately. People that sin, I did a sin, shuyani, well, who cares, right? I'll go on. It's only a small sin, it's only a minor sin, whatever. Later on, it's become so, we just give it no consideration. And we forget about what we've spoken about before, who we are sinning against. The blessings that He has given us, the betrayal of that loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and aligning ourselves with our enemy. There's so much going on in even the smallest sin. And this is heavy on the heart. And we will never fully escape this. Never. Therefore, we don't try and escape it. We acknowledge it, and then we utilize it, like this dua is teaching us. Abu'u laka bi-ni'matika alay. I go back to the blessings. The blessings, all that, I recognize that. And I recognize that my sins are a betrayal of those blessings and what they represent. Allah's care for us, His compassion for us, His loyalty to us, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, the loyalty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us is not like our loyalty to Him. His loyalty, wilayatullah, for us is Him protecting us and Him fulfilling His promises that He promised us. As the people of paradise will say, وَقَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي صَدَقَنَا وَعْدَهُ وَأَوْرَثْنَا الْأَرْضَ نَتَبَوَّأُ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ حَيْثُ نَشَاءُ. People of paradise will say, Alhamdulillah, praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who fulfilled His promise to us. And He made us among the people of Jannah. He allowed us to inherit paradise and to roam around freely wherever we please. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among them. Abu'u laka bi ni'matika alay. In order to recognize and feel how much sins affect us and how bad they are, we need to take into account the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us, the way Imam al-Ghazali did. It's all connected. One slight look at something forbidden is rejecting, betraying all the blessings of the heavens and the earth, subhanallah. That's heavy, that's deep. Abu'u laka bi ni'matika alay wa abu'u bi dhanbi. And I go back to you for my sins. I admit them. I admit my sins, no matter how small or how large. I don't run away from my sins. I don't try denying them. I don't try in justifying them. Sometimes when a person is immersed in a sin, part of the tricks of the shaitan is that they try to convince them, no, you're not doing a sin. Some people said this, some people said that. Oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. These scholars don't know what they're talking about. They're just making things harder for you, right? That's one of the tricks of the shaitan, trying to justify the sin. What does the Prophet ﷺ teach us in this dua? Admit. I admit my sins and I take them back with you. Directly to the one who we are afraid of in the first place, subhanAllah. Right? I admit my sins. I don't reject them, I don't deny them. I admit them because when I admit them, I can get rid of them. I can take care of them. That's actually psychologists. Part of that is part of the process of recovering. First is denial, and then it's the order. Denial, and then
denial, and then is
bargaining. Denial,
bargaining, yeah, and then the last is acceptance.
the last is it, right. So the Prophet ﷺ makes it easy for us. Accept it from the beginning. Accept, and this is the sunnah of Adam alayhi salam. This is the example of Adam alayhi salam. When he did the sin, he could have said like what we do. It was just one bite. It's just one fruit or one apple, whatever it was, right? It's just once, and you're kicking me out of paradise for it. I mean, that's a pretty harsh consequence. That's a pretty harsh punishment for such a small, minute thing, right? None of us, no, in our times, no one would even think twice about taking a fruit from a tree that it's not theirs. No one thinks, I'm just having lunch, whatever. He won't mind. Whoever the owner is won't mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exiled him from paradise. That's pretty harsh. That's pretty severe, rather. That's a better word. That's pretty severe. But what did Adam alayhi salam do? You say, oh Allah, this is your fault. No, why? Why don't you just put a fence around it? Why do you have to make forbidden in the first place? Why this, why that? Right? This is 21st century talk. Enlightenment mentality. Right? That's what it is. What did he say? قَالَ رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. Him and Hawa, alayhi salatu wassalam. قَالَ رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Immediately, without debate, without discussion, without logically thinking, right? What did they say? Oh Allah, we have sinned, we admit our sins, and we have wronged ourselves. If you don't forgive us, we're going to be amongst those who are ruined. That is the sunnah of Adam. This is the way our father did it. This is the way we should do it. And look at the results. He became a prophet. Someone who we always say alayhi salam whenever we hear his name. He is a role model for mankind. And he returned to paradise in a status better than when he was exiled from it in the first place. The opposite is the sunnah of Iblis. It's the way of Iblis. When Allah told him to prostrate, a very simple act, what was his reaction? Heck no. Right? No, I'm not doing that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exiled him. What did Iblis say? What was his reaction? قَالَ رَبِّي بِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. Oh Allah, because you deceived me, I'm going to go after the children of Adam. It is your fault. Why did you tell me to do this? Who is Adam alayhi salam? And unfortunately, this is most of the Muslims in our time today. They're following the sunnah of Iblis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all. Right? I'm not saying Muslims are bad, I'm not saying, but this is the mentality. Right? This is not our mentality. Because of that mentality, he is the lowest person in hellfire. He is a deceiver. He is the one who is cursed. He is the one who is exiled from not only from paradise, from the heavens, from that ranking, but he was exiled from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? This is the nafs al-ammara bis-su, the self that is driving us to evil. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us with our own selves, against our own selves. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who follow guidance and who follow the straight path. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us acknowledge and benefit from our sins, and to make us among those who take advantage of their situation, who utilize their sins in a way that brings them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we will stop there, inshallah. We'll continue the other two types of self in the next talk, inshallah. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in.